We have an insurance question today that you do not want to miss. I'll be right back with you. Hey Halifax, Brenda Kay here with the Halifax Home Selling Group and the Sweet Miss Frankie. Today we've got Shane Kennedy from the Cooperators with us. Shane, thank you so much for joining us.
Brenda, it is absolutely delightful to see you and great to be here.
Thank you. So Shane, you're with the Cooperators Insurance here in Dartmouth. And insurance is one of those things where you hate to spend the money, but it's so important. And today I want to talk about water and water damage. So what we saw, Shane, is that after the hurricane, there was a lot of claims, people finding out they weren't covered. So would you tell us the different water coverages you should have in your insurance, and are these special riders? So I got a two-part question there for you.
Yeah, so maybe I'll take the second one first, Brenda. So comprehensive water, and I'll break down what that is a separate rider. So it's not necessary that you have it, although with the extreme weather that we're experiencing, here on the East Coast and right across the country, it's protection that you want to have as part of your policy. And I would say, to break it down, and I'm going to give you some fancy dancy insurance terms, but it's overflow from a body of water, it's water, septic, sewer backup, extreme rain. And the one that's unique to the cooperators is storm surge, waves from a storm or hurricane. And so think of that as any water that comes into your house, not to be confused with a pipe that bursts inside your house. That will be covered as part of your policy. Huge difference. Okay. And a lot of times when people are thinking about insurance, they're looking for the cheap and the cheerful. And water risk, especially comprehensive water coverage, is a huge risk if you don't have it.
And here, that's such an important question, Shane, and I actually, because of this conversation today, I'm going to have an extra question or suggestion for my clients moving on, is saying, ask about a special rider for your water, because most people, we call up, as I'm sure before you got into the insurance business, you bought your first house years ago. It's like you call up and you go, hey, can I have insurance on my, you don't even ask that question.
No, you really don't. And I tell you, I think it was the floods in Sydney that really kind of woke up the insurance industry to say, okay, people aren't covered and people are hurting, and we need to add this additional coverage to policies. And I think that was kind of the start. And yeah, comprehensive water is a huge risk, and it's something that people want to pay attention to. Absolutely.
So with special rider is there a big extra cost to that?
You know what? It really depends. I mean, we I can only speak for our company, but we look at, where is the house? What's the proximity to bodies of water? And it'll all depend on, that data. So you could pay anywhere from, a couple $100 to as much as you're paying for your policy limit. And again, it goes down to the risk. Ways to mitigate kind of costs is playing with your deductible, but the cost can go from a few $100s to equal to what you're paying for your property coverage and your liability.
Right. And you and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. I was telling you about a friend of mine where she's with a call-in center, and they said to her after the hurricane and her entire roof was ripped off her house, and they said, well, which came first, the water or the wind?
Yeah, sounds like a bit of that, that chicken or the egg question. But, I would defer that back to, when you're researching a company that you want to do business with, it's not only important to kind of understand the upfront, but what does the back end look like? What's the claims experience? What's the service after the sale? And I would say in your friend's case, I would get her to push back with her agent and her broker, and push back on that. I mean, Fiona was devastating for many of our neighbors, but that claims experience after is important. And do your research would be my advice there, Brenda.
So when it comes to coverage, Shane, because we don't know, say you mentioned the Sydney floods, these people could never have imagined, and we all know with the extreme weather we're having in the world today, how should we gauge how much coverage we should have? Should we have 25,000? Should we have 50,000? Should we have 100,000? How would you determine that, Shane?
Yeah, so I think a couple things come into play. I think first, number one, what's your budget, and cost is always important. If you have 50,000 in coverage and you have $500,000 in coverage, clearly there'll be a difference in premium. From our perspective, it's an all or nothing. And with the comp water coverage that we offer, we if your policy limit is X, then your comp water is X, so that we don't want to be in a position that we're forced to kind of decide on, well, we're only paying for half your claim. So I think as you think about restoration, you think about a $25,000 to refinish a basement, it's not going to go that far. So I would be, to answer your question, I think obviously it comes back to budget. It comes back to, really, do you have an unfinished basement? Do you have a finish? What are the risks? And you have to kind of mitigate those risks as you go on. So there's no one size fits all. From our perspective, it's an all or nothing coverage. We equal the water coverage to what the clients have for their property values.
Really? So so I'm just going to throw this out there. Somebody's house is worth $400,000 and they have comprehensive water coverage and their home is destroyed. It would cover replacement of basically $400,000.
We would have $400,000 in water coverage for that property. Absolutely.
And would that be a really expensive rider to add on?
I go back to kind of the how we price it. It really comes down to the level of risk, and insurance really is based on kind of risk, and that's why we ask what's your age of your roof, and when's your oil tank. So it really comes down to risk. So again, if you're really close proximity to water, or there's been flooding, I live close to the Sackville River. Those homes are prone to water damage. You're going to pay a little higher premium for that. So again, it's and you brought up a point. Replacement cost value is incredibly important. Outside of comp water, but if we have to rebuild your house, water or fire, regardless of what your limit is, do you have a full replacement cost? Is another.
That's a huge question. Okay, this is something I just learned a couple of years ago. So you don't automatically have full replacement coverage at the price of today's cost, do you?
It depends. Again, and that's why the insurance, being the last 2 years in the business, I've learned so much. But it really depends on the type of policy you have, and I would be buyer beware on cheap and cheerful coverage. I like that. The old saying goes, you get what you pay for. So you want to have the Goldilocks, not too much, not too little. And that's where working with a professional that is well-versed in comprehensive insurance coverage is important. So yeah.
Sitting down, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no.
Sitting down with a broker, myself, I use a broker. I know that I pay a little bit extra, but the thing is, I know who to call. I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Mike, blah, blah, blah. Here's my question. It's not some call center in Toronto.
And I call it human advice, Brenda. That's what you offer, human advice. Exactly. That's why people deal with you. It's that, it's somebody going to have your back, and price is important. Don't get me wrong. And that's where we're a direct insurer, meaning that I'm an agent, independent agent for the cooperators, but we have the ability to bundle. So if you have your home insurance with me and you have you have a mortgage and we do the life insurance for the mortgage, we can bundle and we can save people money. So, there is an opportunity to kind of, have the coverage, but not have to remortgage your house for the coverage.
Right. So from our conversation today, the big aha that I would say for our viewers is call your insurance and find out, do you have do you have comprehensive water coverage on your home?
Correct. And for how much?
For how much?
My experience is that most of our competitors are anywhere from 25 to 50,000. So I'd say that's better than not having anything.
That's right.
But certainly if you're living on a waterfront property or you're living close to the ocean, that may not be enough.
That's right. And our second aha from today is you can actually adjust what you pay for insurance by putting your deductible a little bit higher.
Play with your deductible. And there's an inverse relationship. The higher the deductible, you should see some cost savings when it comes to premium.
Right.
And I'd say the last one is this: just remember, insurance is for the big and the bad. a lot of folks, and I was one of them, had a claim. I was like, great, I finally have an opportunity to have a claim.
Yeah.
And it was a small claim. And those small claims lead to higher premiums in the long run. So, just be aware of, kind of, like I hit the jackpot when I had my first claim, and I was like, yes, not realizing you're going to see an increase in premium the following year. And if you have another claim, it only snowballs from there.
That's right. So if you have a little bit higher deductible, my deductible is $2,500.
Yeah, I just use the 0.5%. So if you got $1 million house, 5,000. You got a $500,000 house, 2,500. And you're taking on a little bit of risk, a little bit more risk, but you will see the premium adjustment as a result.
Okay. Shane, like I said, there's been so much water damage. I thank you so much for coming on today and having a conversation about that. I would like to have you back and talk about other insurance coverages on your home if you can make time for us.
Absolutely. And listen, thanks for doing this financial literacy, because I think it's so important in today's age that people get educated, and that human advice that you offer is so important. So thank you for all you do, Brenda.
And I agree with you. Right back at you, Shane. So, hey, Halifax, you got the 2 ahas. Check your insurance, read your policy, know what you're covered for, because the world is changing. The weather is changing. And we've got to make sure our homes are our most valuable asset. Make sure yours is protected. Shane, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll call on you again for more advice.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Cheers.